Joined now by the Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, at Greg Sankey on Twitter. You can find him there. I'm sure he'd love to hear from all of you. So we are talking about how wild it is, Greg, this year to be back with the conference tournaments going. I know for you, it has to feel almost surreal, I would imagine, given the way the conference tournaments got shut down last year. What has this year felt like, and how crazy was it last year?
Well, I'll start with that last one. Beyond what we would have imagined last year. And we actually had written press releases for everything from we're playing to we're stopping and everything in between. So it's not as if we didn't stop and think we might not be able to play. But, you know, where we were last year and understanding COVID and understanding how to deal with issues, I wouldn't have predicted just a stoppage. And the way it played out with, you know, like on a Wednesday, Dr. Fauci testifying before Congress, the World Health Organization declaring a pandemic, our campuses stopping in-person, you know, residential learning, and just the NCAA moving fans out of its tournament, which wasn't going to happen for another week. You know, it just happened so rapidly. But fast forward, we've learned a lot. In fact, we've learned an incredible amount about supporting healthy competition in this environment. You know, when I was in the arena, I walked by our COVID testing stations. You know, part of what we're dealing with is looking forward to the NCAA tournament next week. Every day, every one of our 34 official travel party members for each team goes through COVID testing. So right after we play games, everybody gets a nasal swab, goes to a lab, and you know, we kind of hold our breath for the results. So the good news is we've done like 5,000 of those tests the last 3 weeks for all of our championships, swimming, diving, track and field, women's basketball. And out of that 5,000, we had one positive student athlete back in track and field. And so we can manage this, but people have to be hyper attentive. And that's just our reality.
So take me back last year. And I know we've talked about this before, but I think the fact that it is now the 1-year anniversary of everything shutting down, how stunning and how unbelievable was it? So you are in Nashville last year for the men's basketball tournament in the SEC. I believe there are teams out starting the warm-up process, and then, boom, suddenly everything shuts down. What was that like?
Well, it started Wednesday night late when the NBA stopped play because of the Rudy Gobert positive test. And we'd been talking to leagues and trying to figure out what they would do at the professional level with a test. But it was stunning. You know, this is a conference that had a facility, the Georgia Dome, hit by a tornado.
Yeah.
And we still figured out a way to play. So really, front and center in my mind is the bias to find a way. But just the reality was that wasn't possible. And, again, that's against the backdrop of playing after a tornado hits a facility. We figured out a way. So, you know, it was hard. I don't know any better descriptors. We had to do what we had to do. I appreciate the way our folks came together. I think after what happened in that Utah Jazz game, the kind of the air went out of the balloon is the way I'd describe it.
We're talking to Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner, the SEC basketball tournament taking place in Nashville right now. How much better are you sleeping now than you were sleeping in June of last year?
Yeah, wow, that's a fascinating question to consider. So the last few weeks heading into this, probably not as comfortably. You know, the June, July, I actually spent some time with some folks this week going moment by moment through, you know, what happened in July from, you know, Clay early on. I spent time with presidents and chancellors on phone calls. That seems really boring, but I knew our presidents were willing to take our time. And out of anything we did right, we just didn't pull the plug early. We waited. And during that time, we were trying to figure out testing. You know, how do you do it economically, timely, accurately, make sure it's available? And that wasn't reality in July. And so we had to go secure that. How do you structure a schedule? How do you reimagine your normal operating rhythm and your standard operating procedures? So that sleep was not comfortable at all in June and July. So probably better because we've been dealing with so much that, if we have something here, we'll just deal with it and kind of move on. And I don't know that's the way I want to learn, but that's the way I have learned through this thing.
When is the last athletic event on the schedule right now for the SEC this year?
Sunday before Memorial Day, our baseball championship game at our baseball tournament.
So let's pretend that it's the Monday after that Memorial Day. What is it going to? I'm going to give you something that positive here. You're going to be able to finish everything. The Monday after that Sunday championship for baseball, you wake up and think what?
You and I have danced the dance about me not answering hypotheticals before,
yes.
But I'll answer that. I'll answer that hypothetical. I haven't allowed myself to go there, to be honest with you. Clay, this has been like day to day, week to week.
I know, and the fact that you know when that date is makes me know that you've at least got it on your wall. It's like if you're running a marathon, you're like, okay, I'm at mile 18 right now. I think I can make it to 26. Right? Let's just pretend that that's the analogy.
Right. So I'll answer it this way: is that when I looked at this week, I had a mentality, if I could make it through this week, I'm going to go away, go to my lake house, go to the beach, something, go just decompress. There's so much in front of me. That's not even on my mind any longer. We'll get back at it Monday morning, preparing for the rest of our spring sports, really looking into some of the business decisions we have to make and preparing for football. And so that Monday, the easy answer is the same thing. What I'd like to do is gather like everybody in some kind of old Coca-Cola commercial. I'd like to teach the world to sing that day, right? Because of all that's taken place. And I mean that. Like I've tried to go to these championships and thank our teams for like hanging in there, making it possible because they deserve the credit. So it'd be right. There was a sense of pride when we finished the football season. I'll be honest with you. Like, wow. At the beginning, I said, if we could do this, this will be one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of college football because, people were dropping rocks on our feet every 2 hours.
Yeah.
When we always said is we're not going to stop. So to just go ahead and do it, to imagine a testing protocol to get it done was really rewarding. And, if we get through this week, I'm going to feel that way Sunday afternoon. If we can do what we did in women's basketball where we played every game and named the champion, I'm going to enjoy the drive back home Sunday afternoon, and Memorial Day will probably be a lot like that. Just to enjoy what we've accomplished because it has been incredibly, incredibly challenging.
Will you go to Indianapolis for the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I don't think early on because we've just got some things to do. I want to go to our gymnastics championship. And people are like, wow, do you want to go to gymnastics championship? You know what? Our young women work incredibly hard to compete at the highest level. We've got the number one ranked team in the country there. And I'll go Sweet 16 time frame. And I think we'll make some good runs both in men's basketball and in women's basketball. So I'm looking forward to the Sweet 16 experience. You
mentioned all the different testing that's still going on and the fact that the COVID numbers are down, right? I know you're not an epidemiologist or a virologist or anything else. Do you attribute that to the protocols now being in place and everybody knowing what they have to do, to college numbers being down overall, to them being down overall across the country? How do you really assess that?
Our doctors tell us, I would identify a vaccine is going to chop it down, so that's happening in real time. A lot of people have just been attentive. We're going outdoors more. The weather's better. A lot of people have had it. So, as I understand it, that builds up a level of immunity. Our doctors have suggested we be really attentive through April 1 just to understand the variants and the spread there while emphasizing the need for vaccination. So I think people's behavior has adapted over time, and, a lot of people have had it, and the vaccine helps. And, I just read a long article about variants, and as these things adapt, sometimes they can become less effective. So you're right, I'm not an immunologist, but I'll take lower numbers, just keeping in mind that some of them are above like last summer, but it's the right direction. So that's encouraging.
We're talking to SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Already a lot of places are talking about their fall plans. I'm sure you saw Alabama, not just for full attendance for football, but obviously people back in classrooms and normal settings there. I think Texas A&M has come out and said the same thing. I'm sure I'm even missing other schools that have said the same thing. Do you expect that by the fall, when college football season kicks off again, that it will seem very much more like a normal season in 2021 than in 2020? And is it your hope that there will be full capacity at your conference stadiums?
The answer to the last question is, yeah, I hope. But, hope's not a plan. And had you asked me that question a year ago, like yesterday, I would have said, yeah, we're going to plan on normal. And when we put our schedule out, we said, really, we put a kind of a flag in the ground to say we're going to play football like we planned. And then we're going to have to adapt to the virus. So we can't have another spike in the summer. That will inhibit us. We know how to conduct competition, though. So we have advantages heading into this next fall that we didn't have last fall. Because last fall, nobody knew how to test, right? You couldn't get tests. And treatments lagged. So now we're all a lot better at what we do. And my phrasing is we're going to be back toward normal. Whether that's fully to normal, I don't know yet, but I feel encouraged we'll be back toward normal.
Last question for you, because I know how busy you are. There's things running around like crazy at the conference basketball tournament. We're talking to SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. What do you think you've learned about yourself over the last year? We've learned a lot about a lot of different aspects of American life that maybe we didn't anticipate knowing. You have just stepped into the leadership role of a conference relatively recently, and then boom, COVID happens. What have you learned about yourself? What do you know now in March of 2021 that you didn't know in March of 2020?
Marty Smith asked me that question.
Oh, he's already asked
Monday.
The exact same question? Oh, I just thought this is a great question. I'm gonna get an amazing answer. And Marty Smith's already parachuted in and asked the same question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And then Paul asked me it right after.
The same question?
So Paul Feinberg.
I didn't hear either of those. Is your answer going to be better for me than it was for them? I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third time.
Yeah, there you go.
The first part is I followed two guys who were giants in my mind because I knew them, Mike Slive and Roy Kramer. And moving through this, I don't linger under anyone's shadow any longer. And that may be hard for someone to understand the significance of that, but those guys are like on Mount Rushmore, and we just accomplished something that. Again, I describe as one of the most challenging things in the history of college football, given the environment around us. So that's one. That gives you a little bit of confidence. Really, my judgment played out in effective ways and in bringing our people together, even though there was disagreement. I've gone back and looked at the messaging I was communicating to people, Clay, and we really had a lot of perspective ahead of time. We seemed to be able to see around the corner. And that's what fueled us. Those conversations with presidents I'm talking about, those were key to me. And it then informed what happened the next week, where I just asked people, why do we play college football, which provided clarity. And then we went through 2 or 3 weeks of people quitting, shutting down, or talking about stopping. And I was ready for that. So the ability to think forward, not to be perfect, and then, the trust in delegating to my staff, because I couldn't have done this. Charlie Hussey, go figure out how to test. Go get us somebody who can be a third party and test. The people at Tiffany Daniels runs our fall sports, soccer, volleyball, everything but football, basketball. Tiffany, how are we going to do this in these sports? We played soccer, and I'm as proud of that. We named the champion. Vanderbilt wins. Everybody can have different opinions, but the Sarah Fuller story became a story simply because we tried. And that's why you try, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Coming into this tournament, Arkansas won 11 straight games in men's basketball. They're back to where they've been for so long. That doesn't happen if we don't try. South Carolina just won our women's championship. That doesn't happen if we don't try. I could go on and on. But the importance of trying and doing hard things. In a society where I think we forgot a little bit about the importance. So it doesn't matter if it's hard. Let's go do it. Let's get together and go do it. That's an important lesson for us all, in my view.
I know I said last question, but this led to this truly last question. Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner. If you guys don't play football, let's pretend that you had made the decision we can't do this in the SEC. Does college football happen last season?
I don't think so. And part of what, going back to my own decision making, in April I had a PowerPoint slide, and what it said was what we hope. What we hope is to play fall sports, and that others will follow. So I had a view that we had to be ready to lead, and others can disagree. It was really important to us and helpful that we had people with us. Had we not played, I think it would have been hard for others probably. That's not what happened, so I really didn't have to answer that question. And then if we hadn't played in the fall, there was this suggestion of spring football, but the rates were so high in December and January. If we'd have stopped for the reasons people were giving then, it would have been really hard to play this spring, and I'm not sure basketball would have gotten off the ground.
That's I mean, I'm glad you were in charge. I'm glad it happened, and I think you're right. I think there's a good chance an entire year of college athletics would have been lost if you hadn't been in charge of the SEC and hadn't made it happen. Enjoy Nashville, enjoy the tournament, and hopefully you can make it to the that Memorial Day relaxation time.
Yeah, well, a lot of people made this happen, and I had high school associations calling me saying, "We're going to do what you do." So you realize it's not like I have enough on my mind. Just trying to play our deal, much less others looking for what we're going to do.
Well, to have done it without, knock on wood, any serious health conditions so far is a remarkable achievement. Enjoy the tournament. Like I said, enjoy Nashville. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Take care.
That's SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Appreciate him coming on to share his recollections of the shutdown last year and hope that they're going to be able to have a finished product this year at the SEC basketball tournament that is going on in Nashville. Obviously, a lot of chances and challenges of craziness still arising with COVID, but the positive direction trend lines are there.